Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. It is the Cappuccino Club social TV show, and we do it different times. In case you're wondering why are we so early today, we are doing a different time slot on a Tuesday, and so a hearty welcome to day 19 of our daily broadcast, talking about COVID-19, but not COVID-19 per se. We're talking about the effects and the unintended effects of COVID-19 on the economy and on business in South Africa and globally, and more so to see how we are can check in on one another, check in on the community, see how we're doing, and what can we do as a business community to keep going during the lockdown period. So I'm Brigitte Limbanda from Cape Town in South Africa. Welcome to the show and welcome to my co-host, Viola Manuel. Viola, hello.
Hi, Brigitte. Hello to our audience. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who are in the swing of things, I know that we go live much earlier on a Tuesday. Thanks so much for joining us.
That's right. And so yesterday we were talking about some very interesting, we had an interesting conversation. I really enjoyed the conversation yesterday. We were talking about what it is that businesses can do to remain relevant during the lockdown. What are the technologies that they could embrace,
Mm-hmm.
and how they could pivot from what they were doing? Because
Yes.
I don't have the chart with me right now on screen, but we did post a chart not too long ago, and it is freely available on the internet. It's an amazing infographic of the businesses that are currently struggling and will be struggling for the next year or two as a
Mm-hmm.
result of the unintended consequences of COVID-19. And the infographic also showed what are the kind of businesses that will thrive. So if you on the side, on the left hand side of that scale, that's in the red, that's in the category that's not going to thrive, that's going to suffer. What are the things that you're doing to pivot, or are you stuck? What are you doing? Let us know in the comments. Are you currently trading? How are you communicating with your network? Now, Viola and I were having a conversation offline just before the show started, and we said a lot of people are using technologies, um, mainly Zoom. There's Blue Jeans. There's all kinds of other software. There's Microsoft Teams. A lot of
Yeah.
companies are using Microsoft Teams as well. But
Yeah.
essentially, those technologies are being used by companies to continue their internal business, and they're using that to engage with existing clientele to finish off projects. But what are you doing to pivot towards getting new work? What are you doing for business continuity?
Yeah.
And so today we decided we'll talk a little bit about what is the kind of content that you um, should be putting out there to let people know we are still in business. And you really have to be, I don't think we can emphasize this enough, you really have to be very vocal, verbal, and deliberate about that message, because the assumption is that you closed for business.
Right. And I just want to, I want to shout out to those businesses that have actually gone online, who are servicing their clients and are not just waiting for the storm to pass. So there's a lot of people doing some fantastic things. I know there's interest in my research, and obviously just talking to some of my friends. One legal practice has got a whole thing called Legal Under Lockdown, but again, they're servicing existing clients. And what's amazing is a lot of my colleagues that I'm speaking to are all offering some kind of rebate, or some kind of discount to their services over this period. And I think that's amazing, because that's really what we've been talking about. It's about the fact that we're all in this together. Um, and we are going to have to start showing each other kindness, just in the form of, reducing fees, allowing people payment plans to whatever your services are that you're offering, because it will settle itself, and we will, people will start getting to the point where they can afford to do what they were doing before lockdown started. um, but I think what we're referring to is something almost, I want to say, unique in that we are now saying to businesses, you know, get online and really think about sharing tips and interesting content about your industry that will assist people who are not necessarily clients yet, but will become clients because of the work that the work you've invested in during this time. So, we spoke about the hairdresser. The hairdresser is a brilliant example.
Yes.
If you do an online tutorial on how to trim your ends or how to give your son a haircut, etc., etc., lots of hairdressers might gasp and say, no, if you do that, you're taking away my livelihood. People will just watch the video. Well, let me say to you that there are hundreds of videos online on how to cut your hair. I don't know how successful people are, but the fact that you've shared that information with your clients and with the rest of the viewing public, the people who will go online, says a lot about you, about how you're willing to share, how you're willing to be there for others, how you're willing to just allow them to engage in your art. And as I said, the reality of it is people like me are probably going to come to you anyway to undo the mess we've done. So, I just think that there's an opportunity here for people to be sharing a lot more. We spoke yesterday about your value chain. There might be information, there might be things that clients might find interesting about your value chain, your suppliers. If we talk about legal again, human resources, labor relations, people might want to know, is the CCMA still open? I have no idea. How do you contact them during lockdown? Those kinds of things are I think what people might be interested in hearing, and how to prepare for a case if you get fired because you didn't take leave during this time. So I think, Brigitte, our content that we're talking about is really more about the greater good kind of stuff. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to share content that's going to give people the warm fuzzies inside, to put it in a nutshell. You want to show your soft skills, your human side, because that's what's going to endear people to you. The
Yeah,
time to put on the suit is not right now. That,
the
no
hard
one is
selling.
attracted to a suit at this point in time. It's not going to win you any brownie points.
Yeah,
So put out content of value to people. Find out what it is that people would like to know. And in fact, it's okay to reach out to your community and say, what would you like to know? How can I help
absolutely.
you? How can I serve you? What problem can I solve for you?
And that is probably the best thing to do. Just go to your clients and go to the community, go to friends, say, during this time, I am in the cabinet making industry. What is it that people would want to know about my sector? Do you want to know how to fix a door handle? Do you want to know how to, whatever it is, and then share information about that. It was know, like, and trust. Those are the three important aspects that we were talking about yesterday. Get people to know your business, who you are, get people to like you because of the information you share. It's credible, it's shared with a smile on your face. You're transparent, you're telling people about giving them information, in this instance for free. And then there's that relationship of trust that's built, and the next time they need you, they're going to definitely contact you as their preferred supplier of that service.
Right. So, I mean, to give you another example, you can be a strategist, right? And
Yeah,
these days, everybody goes to Dr. Google for anything and everything under the sun. So you can go and Google how to be a good strategist. But there's nothing out there that's going to replace the years of experience that you've got. Um, you know, no one can replace that, because your experience adds knowledge to the table that Google's not going to be offering anybody.
correct.
Um, and Google doesn't have a personality. We used the analogy of a hairdresser earlier. So if we already have thousands, if not millions, of hairdressers out there in the world. Why are people still going to study to become a hairstylist?
Mm.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Because the way you approach your craft is unique to you. And people are going to be attracted. I think we mentioned this yesterday as well. People are attracted to who you are, your personality. So you may have 10 hairdressers or hairstylists sitting in a row, but you're going to go to the one that you feel most attracted to.
Yeah. And
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 that is
also,
the, that is,
yeah, and also where there's a relationship. I mean, all of us know that you will drive past 20 hairstylists on your way to the hairstylist that is 20 minutes away, because there's a relationship there. There's a relationship of trust. And that's what we're asking small business owners to do now, is use online live streaming to create a relationship of trust. We've spoken about sharing information, very much like what we're doing now. Just get online, brand the live stream. Allow people to just understand what it is that you do. Inform them about your sector. Inform them about the difficulties that COVID-19 has presented your sector. Tell them what it is that you're excited to offer them. What you're looking at. That you have the opportunity to engage with. So I really believe, especially for small business owners right now, this is an opportunity for you to actually carve a niche for yourself and become, what was the name of that lawyer that you spoke about in the States, the live streaming lawyer, or the LinkedIn live
which
lawyer?
he's referred to as the streaming lawyer, and he's actually trademarked that phrase, the streaming lawyer. He's called Mitch Jackson.
Yeah, so become the streaming hairdresser, become the streaming yoga instructor, become the streaming healthy living person. But the point is that the more you share with people and help build their confidence and give them information, it's one of the reasons I believe the Cappuccino Club has had the levels of success that we've had. It's the fact that we share information readily, that people are willing to help each other. As soon as there's a message that goes out
A
that says,
need, yeah.
I need this, people are there to help each other. And so, it's amazing what kind of insight you get from the comments from people watching your show. If you put something on, onto a stream, and people will comment, and that will help you then, and it becomes very user centric. Your solutions then become very user centric.
Oh, absolutely. And you learn to tune into your users. Now is your unique opportunity to really listen, to really pay attention and build those relationships so that when the lockdown is over, and it's going to be over, those people are going to, and in those kind of situations, price point doesn't even matter. If you've built the relationship, the price is not going to matter. People will pay for your goods and services because of the relationship that you've built with them, the way that you've made them feel during this time period. And we mentioned it earlier, a lot of people are prepared to have payment plans now that they may not have considered before. I
Absolutely.
saw yesterday an offer from a trademark attorney. I think he's called Indie Law, and he's another one of the attorneys that stream very, very regularly. And what he's done is, he's got a trademark course that he offers or something. Um, and he usually gives people a payment plan of 3 months. And what he's done now is he's said to people, I am willing to extend that payment plan to 6 months with no further interest.
So Brigitte, in terms of his stream, what does he share? Do you know what the content is?
Well, what he does is he shares content about trademarks. Now, you and I may think a trademark is a trademark is a trademark. It's actually quite complicated.
Yeah.
The process of getting a trademark, and you will be, I have been gobsmacked at the kind of stuff that you can trademark for your business. You know, did you know, for example, you can trademark your hashtag? Anything that identifies with your business that's unique to you, you can go and get a trademark to protect your business.
Yeah.
And so he talks about trademarks all the time and why you should have a trademark. And he also teaches you what to do. And again, it's not something you can do by yourself. It teaches you what you can do if there's been an infringement on your trademark.
Okay.
And
So, yeah. So very much the content that we're talking about, just taking your subject that you know so much about and that you've been working with for so long, and just sharing information with your audience around that subject. um, I think it becomes so important, because the one thing people are doing is they're scrolling, they're on their phones all the time. I mean, people now have the time to look at shows they're interested in, content that they're interested in. And again, it's sort of a magic pool at the moment for small businesses. If you can tap into it, you can find that there is opportunity. And a lot of even just Cappuccino Club ladies, after watching the show yesterday, have expressed a huge interest in just actually taking this further, because I believe that it's about the relationships and it's about the opportunity to create that relationship. I think it's Tamsin on one of our shows. She said that, she constantly does that. She just touches base with her clients. And I know she'll probably want to knock me on my head for telling everybody this, but I know she wins Agent of the Year or Agent of the Century. I don't know what it is, but she constantly wins awards at work. And I think that is part of her success, is the fact that she has these excellent relationships. And I think for me, when I was with the Chamber of Commerce as well, it was all about the relationships, and all the accolades come because of the relationships that you have. So here's an opportunity to create relationships with people you don't even know through live streaming. And I think it's really something people must take quite seriously.
oh, absolutely. Now, Mitch, for example, I was scrolling through his posts, and I think for the second time I've seen he actually opened up an entire day where he offered free legal advice. I mean, it's an unheard of service to say, I'm going to spend an entire day giving you free legal advice.
Yeah.
But it's unusual times, people need to do unusual things. People need to get
Yes.
out of their comfort zone because it's business unusual. It's not stuff that you would normally think of doing. And you know what? The more you give, the more you're going to get back. It's
Yeah.
those little seeds that you're sowing at the moment that's going to pay back big time. And I think, it's in speaking to people, a lot of people are feeling extremely uncomfortable because they're struggling to find ways to pivot.
Yes.
It's, they may say, well, I have been making sheets for years, I've been making curtains for years. It's all I know. But guess what?
Yeah.
You've got fabric in stock. And the South African government, and I know other governments have reached out to anybody and everybody who's got access to CMT business. If you've got fabric and you've got a seamstress or somebody who can sew, there's a number of tenders out at the moment to make PPE and masks. It's a huge, massive demand currently. So
Yeah.
it's a mind switch to think, well, I can only do curtains. If you've
Mm.
got fabric, you can do something else.
Yeah, and even those I forget what they're called, but those things that go around your neck, that you can just sort of stick over your face when you're walking into the mall, which is a little more fashionable, I guess. So there's a lot of ways to actually deal with those things. And again, I think it comes down to the fact that you sometimes just need to speak to other people and just say to them that these are the resources I have. How do I pivot? What is it that I need to do? And having those conversations. But again, it comes back to the fact that whatever you're doing, when you are going to live stream, if you are going to have a sort of short video where you're giving people tips and hints and ideas, just make sure that it's credible, that there's a lot of integrity in what it is that you're doing. And then again, I come back to the conversation we had. I think it was with your Lisa, where your Lisa was talking about those flip charts on her wall, just sitting down and saying, what are my new ideas for my business, sticking it against the wall. And every time you walk past it, it might be blank for a few days, but after that you can literally sit down and say, okay, let me start brainstorming new ways for me to actually engage in the market and to be part of this economy. What I'm currently doing isn't working and there is no space for it, so let me find a new way to take the skills. And I think that's what it's about. Write down the skills that you do have, write down the resources that you do have. Look at that infographic that we shared, where we spoke about the businesses that are going to thrive post COVID-19, and sit down and say, how do I become part of that value chain for the value chains for those businesses, and how do I compete, and how do I get involved? Those are the kinds of questions that at this point in time we have to ask, so that when the lockdowns lifted, when we have a semblance of the normality that we knew, we know what to do. We have some kind of strategy. We've given it some kind of thought.
And here's a tip. If you are not yet sure about the content that you want to put out there, tell your story. Tell people how you started your business. Tell people why you started your business. Tell people about the staff that you have and why you chose them. Um, you know, Tell stories. We've all got
Absolutely.
stories. We've all got a history about where we come from. And those are the kind of things that's going to endear your clientele to you. So if you're struggling to make the leap, to find the right content to put out there, just tell your story.
Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't have to be a 30-minute production or an hour production. It could be as little as a 5-minute video at a time. You can get plenty of information in. And here's another quick tip. If you wanted to share things with people, share no more than 3 tips at a time,
Yeah.
because our attention spans are limited. If you're going to try and share 10 tips with me, I'm not going to remember 10 tips.
Correct.
But if you shared 2 or 3 tips with me, I'm going to remember them, make it memorable. And when you share something, tell a story, because people
Yeah.
are going to remember. If you share tips and use some form of association, people are going to remember them so much longer. So don't try and overcomplicate it. Don't try and overthink it. And we talked about it yesterday again. Don't get hung up on the technology. You don't need fancy lights. You don't need fancy cameras. There are people that have put out amazing content simply by using their telephone. We've all got
Yes.
smartphones if we're in business. I can, with almost 100% certainty, say every business person out there has got a smartphone. You can make it work with your smartphone. And if you want some help with your smartphone, put help in the comments. Just say help in the comments. Then we know that you're looking for help with your smartphone to shoot a video, because it's just a few simple tweaks that you need. And you can have a professional looking video just with your smartphone without
Yeah.
needing anything else. And in fact, you can even on Facebook, on your Facebook page, you can go live using just your smartphone. And Lifestreaming Pros, which is one of the amazing companies out there, puts out a lot of content on how to live stream.
Using.
They call that level one. They call it level one live streaming. So level one live streaming is to simply use what you've got, and that's a smartphone in your pocket. So you've got access to live streaming. You've got clients on your page. I've had a look at some Facebook pages, and it's dead. People are not communicating
Yeah.
with their clients. Don't be afraid to say something. Keep in touch with people. Don't let people go and visit your Facebook page or your LinkedIn page. or your YouTube channel and there's no content, or
Yeah.
they sort of left wondering, have you just closed shop? Have you died down? What's going to happen? Let people know
Mm.
what you're up to.
Yeah. I think that's been our call, is just communicate with the clients, communicate with your internal clients. If you haven't yet, and even if you have at the beginning of the lockdown, now's a good time for you to send another sort of voice note to all your staff, just telling them that you appreciate the fact that this has been an adjustment. There's another 14 days, almost just over 14 days looming. Just find the time to just talk to them and encourage them and get them excited about what's going to happen post lockdown and how the business is going to pivot and how the business is going to grow. I think another tip from us is just, whatever tips and hints, those 2 or 3 that you do choose to put on, try and make them as practical as possible, and talk through why you've chosen those tips and how they've helped you in your business, and probably try and find examples of where they have helped. Very much what we did yesterday, just try to show people what you mean when you say, do the following. It just really does help people understand what it is that you're saying, because very often we work from our frame of reference, but a new person watching who's not part of our industry might not necessarily understand it. So keep it simple, keep it practical, use the kind of language that lay people can actually just relate to and figure out, oh, this is what you're actually trying to say, and this is what helps me. I think those are some really good tips.
And just before we close, because we're almost out of time, a great tip that I also would like to share that I found online is some companies have reached out to the clients and said, could you buy a voucher? Because if we can't pay our staff, we're going to have to close our doors. So tell the story. A
Yeah.
voucher is something people can buy online. If that is going to help you pay your staff,
Yeah.
ask. Just ask. Don't be afraid to ask. We all have empathy for one another. And so if somebody reaches out to you and say, hey, could you buy a voucher for 100 Rand, or could you buy a voucher for 500 Rand, which will honor after lockdown? But I need this cash flow to pay my staff,
Yeah.
and so that I can keep going.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to pivot
Yeah.
and communicate. I think that's kind of the message we're trying to get out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think, just in terms of some of the other tips we had, is that just understand that your authenticity is going to come through on that video. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece. It doesn't have to be this super professional job, with lights, camera, action, and makeup artists and everybody. People understand now what the circumstances are. So, it's really the content is what's going to get people's attention. So really, I love what you said. Just tell your story. Tell the story about your staff. Let people get to know you. Let people get to like you, and then they will trust you.
Absolutely. That's a very nice note to end on for today. So thank you again to our audience on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Periscope, and on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us live. Thank you for sharing the show.
Yep.
And Viola and I will be back again tomorrow, same time. And
No, at 7.
if you at seven.
And we've got and
Apologies.
we've and we've got our insight from youngsters, in terms of what it was like to have mom and dad around during the lockdown. So this is quite a few secrets are probably going to come out. So be prepared for that.
Oh yes. So tomorrow we're having a show unusual. We're looking forward to that, to
Yeah.
hearing from the young ones how they've coped. And I think, as parents and as business people, we do want to give a shout out to our young people, because they've also done their bit to enable us to keep the economy going and to work from home. So a
Yeah.
huge big shout out to the young people. Then we'll chat to some of them tomorrow.
Perfect.
Take care, everyone, and goodbye for now.